Let's just go. Yeah.
All right, guys, we are live with Jake Warner from Penrith Solar. Just want to say that right. He's the lead Enphase guy in Australia. Is this true? Is this still the case?
It's not live. Hold on.
No, we should be live right now.
It says we're live. I don't
Okay,
know.
there we go. Yeah.
Okay. Carlos Vitali, hey, thanks for having me back again. And yeah, that's
I regret that we weren't live for your intro because that was epic, dude. Jake had like two people coming in pretending to be him, and then you hear him like slapping five of all those people. I'm ready to go.
It was WWF for solar.
Seriously.
I just walked through that front door. I've got my sales team like clapping me in. I'm like, guys, I've got to go. I'm late. So
you wouldn't know Enphase is at $113, by the way.
Actually, well, we can start off with that. Jake, okay, so anyone who hasn't seen Jake, we did a podcast a year ago, maybe longer.
Yeah.
And so people should check out, and hopefully after this we'll put a link somewhere there where you can watch it. But Jake was incredibly bullish on Enphase and gave a lot of reasons why we are using Enphase. So this has been now a year and a half later. We're in the solar apocalypse. Are you still an Enphase guy, or what's happening? You're not full Solar Edge?
Through and through Enphase guy, man, like stronger than ever. So a little bit of an update, I guess, on the Australian market. We've now got the new Enphase 5P battery. So that's Enphase's newest battery, which you guys have had in the US for quite some time now. But I
don't think we have. Honestly, I don't think we have.
You've had different versions, right? So you had the 10 kilowatt hour version, and then I think you had a 10 and a 3.3. But I believe now we're both on the same page. I think you guys do get the new 5 kilowatt hour version as well. So and this is the first version of Enphase battery that's actually had backup as well. So we've got that. That's live. We've actually got 400 of them in our warehouse right now. So.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. We're doing a lot of.
You're keeping Q3 afloat.
You're the guy.
You're doing Q3. Thank you, man. Thank you for your service.
No stress. So and we've got the new Enphase IQ8s as well. So finally in Australia we got IQ8s. So we got the IQ8 AC and the IQ8 HC. So it's the product range in Australia is stronger than ever. It's looking really good, and people are enjoying it, to be fair and honest. So, and a reflection of that is we're currently booked out till January. So I think last time we spoke, we were doing maybe 8 installs a day. So we're now at 10 installs a day.
Wait, so you're higher now in the solar apocalypse?
Yeah,
right. We calculated you were doing something like 100 installs a month, something around that, right?
Yeah. We're now doing about 50 to 55 a week. So
you're doing
500 installs a month.
200 install. I mean, at what point do you run out of roofs? I mean, seriously, how long can you continue to grow at that pace, bro? Like at some point, there's only 200 houses in my neighborhood. Like that's an entire zip. I'm serious. Like that's an entire zip code. Like
really?
Yeah, and I know that Australia, 95% of the people are in 5% of the landmass.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think solar penetration is still 30%, if I'm not wrong, in 30%. Australia.
And let me paint a picture as to where we live, right? So we live in Penrith. And let me tell you something about Penrith. I call it the opportunity capital of the world, right? We are situated in just the greatest spot. We're in Western Sydney. We've forever been the underdogs. Our NRL team has just won the premiership for the 3rd year in a row, which is just so great for our town. But we have access to so many people. I mean, how many people have we got in Western Sydney or Sydney? 26 million in Australia. I reckon it'd have to be
a lot. That's double.
At least 10 million, or maybe 7 in New South Wales.
7 to 10.
Yeah, we can access a lot of it from where we are. You know, that when you were talking about most people living in 5% of land mass, we're in that real dense part. So we've got a new international airport going in about 15 minutes from our office.
Yeah, bring this up.
Yeah, which is awesome. We've got there you go. There's Penrith.
So this is Penrith.
Zoom in.
Yep.
So you're in this little area right here.
Yeah. So we're in the center. We go all the way to the top of the Blue Mountains, which is that road that goes over the water there. That's the M4, and that goes up the Blue Mountains. That's like our backyard. We have a suburb in the Blue Mountains where we have a 91% market share. And then everything everything around it as well. So if you zoom out a little more, Yeah, my house is like the top of the screen there.
It's the biggest house in the neighborhood now.
No, definitely not. But around Bowen Mountain, which you can see is just sort of north of where you are.
Bowen Mountain's up here.
Yeah, Grossvale. It's actually technically Kermond. See that little suburb Kermond up in the middle there?
Oh,
yeah. So I'm about half an hour. To give you a sense of scale, I'm half an hour drive to work. So our service area is about an hour and 20 minutes radius from our office.
Well, I mean, you can see it's incredibly dense. Like there are a ton of roofs here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my question is, look, in the United States, solar has clearly slowed down to almost a crawl. But you're making it sound like Australia has not slowed down and it's still continuing to pump out and people are adopting it. Don't the rates mean anything over there? Don't people care?
Well, they do. It's certainly slowed down. So the beginning of this year was pretty rough for us. We got down to about a week lead time, right? Which is as least as it's ever been. But this energy crisis that we have at the same time, yes, we have interest rates, and Australia's kind of forgotten about interest rates, to be really honest, at this point in time. We've got this energy crisis, right? So the price of electricity, I think since we spoke last, has quite literally gone up by 25%. So the motivation to buy solar is higher than ever. So where we did at the beginning of the year get down to a week lead time, and we still kept pushing forwards. We're still selling, solar. The whole industry was in a similar position. Right now, like I said, we're doing 200 a month and we're booked out till January right now. So we're trying to bring on, we've got truck 11 and 12 ready to go. They're being fit out currently. We're training staff. We're hoping that we'll be able to have 11 and 12 on.
So you're expanding.
So you've got roughly, if my math is correct, 600 to 800 installs set up between now and January.
Yeah, that probably not it would be 600. Yeah, definitely. 600. It's about 10 to 11 million in work.
10, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Okay, I'm just curious though. It sounds, are you the anomaly because you're so good? And the other guys are really suffering right now?
No, we are certainly the leaders in our space, but we are not the anomaly. No, it's very reflective across the industry right now. I don't think anyone's having a bad time.
So how come they don't care so much about rates? I still don't understand that part because everybody here just talks about the rates. That's all they talk about.
No, they do. They do care about the rates, and I shouldn't say that because I personally do care about them as well. But it's just, I think for us, solar is so affordable, and it's an easy thing to fix to lower your ongoing costs, So we've got some really cool new VPPs like virtual power plants. We've got some new great finance plans where we're selling a lot of deals for a company called Nectar. And what they are is they're owned by Hanwha Group, which is a Korean giant. They own Hanwha Q-Cells, they own Nectar and a few other companies as well. And so what they do is they're an energy retailer. They're providing interest-free finance for clients to buy solar, but the catch is, and it is truly interest-free. I'm against this buy now pay later stuff where there's 15 to 20% interest built in. We don't do that. But this product is so good that it's an absolute no-brainer. So what they're doing is they're giving you the funds to buy your solar. They're locking in your energy rates for 36 months or 60 months, depending if you buy batteries or not. So it'd be the equivalent of me saying to you in interest rate terms, I'll lock your home loan in at 2% for 5 years. This time last year, you'd be dumb not to do that, right? Everyone would have obviously done that. This Nectar plan is exactly that. So people are locking their energy rates in right now at, say, if the market rate's 38 cents per kilowatt hour, I can lock it in at 30 cents for 5 years, which is just so good. That's the thing.
Is that also what you get when you send energy back to the grid?
No. So their feed-in tariff is pretty low. It's only 4.4 cents. But at right now, market average is 7 cents. So that's another reason, because our feed-in tariffs have reduced so much. When we spoke to you last year, we would have just come off a 20-cent feed-in tariff. I think we were maybe 10 cents. Sometimes we're still seeing 12. And we see the odd 12 cents now, but it's pretty rare. It's usually
But that's the incentive to have people buy batteries, is to store that
correct.
power versus.
And that's why, our battery side of our business is just gone mental. Even at our podcast, our discussion last year, I think was 14 months ago. If you had said to me, Jake, in 12 months time or 14 months time, you'll have around 400 Enphase batteries in your factory and 60 or so Powerwalls at all time, I would have said you're crazy. Like that we won't be able to sustain that. But man, it's gone from like 5% attachment rate to 10% to like we're quite literally 50% right now. And what I mean by attachment rate is people buying solar are buying solar and batteries. Yeah. So
well, real quick, just to, because I had this question earlier. Yeah. What is the average size of the installs that you're doing per home? Like the average.
Do you remember what it was last time we spoke?
I want to say like 9 or 10.
It was 9.8, right?
Okay,
so it was
9.8 kilowatts. Okay.
9.8 kilowatt hour system. It's, okay, that's the system I have. That's what I have.
Yeah. And no, but that was last time we spoke.
Yeah.
And the industry average was 8.5. Right now we're 11.5.
Okay.
We're 11.5 plus battery storage.
So when you say the energy crisis, I mean, it's going on everywhere, obviously. In fact, in my hood, I'm getting more solar, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to pay $3.03 a kilowatt. I'm getting a ground mount system.
But the reason
I'm doing it is because the utility around me raised it 22%, and I was like, I don't want to pay you every 3-4 years 22% more. So I understand that, but how hard is it still to explain to? Are Australians smarter? Do they know more math? Like,
are there different incentives in Australia besides we have the 30% tax credit out here? The IRA was passed, so we can get 30% off.
Mainly, like our biggest one is our government incentive or rebate, as we call it, which is the STC scheme. So it's a 15-year scheme that was started in 2015. It's got like 8 years to go or 7 years to go or something like that. And they would pay right now about 40% of your system up front, thereabouts. Oh, wow. So there is an incentive. But I looked at our pricing yesterday because I knew I'd want to talk about it. And you can buy a 10 kilowatt system off us right now with Enphase, obviously, and no battery storage for, it was like $13,700 out of pocket expense. So it's like $1.37 a watt out of pocket. And that's to amazing. Us, it was like $1.80. Yeah. So,
I think it's because Australia itself is further advanced in terms of adoption of solar. That's why it's so cheaper. You actually have a lot of competition going on there. We have a lot less of that going on, it feels like.
Yeah. You know what? Since we spoke last, what was really interesting, and this will paint a bit of perspective around what we're doing in Australia. Since we spoke last, I've been to Germany, I went to China, I've been to quite a few places. And every time I go to one of these places, I'm really, really impressed with Australia. Like, we go to Germany, which is seen to be like the electric vehicle capital of the world, right? And I just don't think it's that impressive. I come back and I'm like, wow, we're actually doing so good. Like, our rooftop penetration is so good. The quality of our installs is so good. I tell you what, though, when I went to Shanghai, it was about 6 weeks ago, and I was blown away with the amount of EVs on the road. Like, there are more EV. There's like 50% electric vehicles right now in Shanghai. It is so high. So, but in Australia, like, our electric vehicles, like Tesla Model Y is the most commonly sold car in Australia right now. And I'm sure it's probably pretty close in the US as well, I would imagine. I mean, I don't know, but it's like people are buying Model 3, Model Y, the new BYD, like so many electric vehicles. It's a really gives me a good sense of pride, that
that was a follow-up question I was going to ask you. How many of these installs that you're putting in are paired with like an EV charger? Like, how many of those Enphase EV chargers are you selling, or are they, or do they already have? Are they using another?
Yeah, in Australia, we don't yet have the Enphase EV charger. We use a lot of the Tesla wall connector. So now you can use it with most electric vehicles, which is pretty neat. And if we're doing a Powerwall on the site, there are advantages to that as well, because the app sort of integrates really nicely, and it's just a good thing to have. So electric vehicle chargers, we kind of treat them a little differently. We let our service department do our electric vehicle charging, but we're still not doing a heap, to be honest. I mean, we're maybe doing like 20 a month, which in comparison to how many solar systems we're doing is pretty low. But now that I think about it, 20 a month is actually quite good.
Is EV adoption also accelerating, or is solar adoption actually more in Australia?
Yeah. Do these homes have a lot of all these homes have EVs? Like, what percentage of these installs also have an EV?
Oh, I reckon probably 20%, but they've all got it on their mind. Yeah. I think EV owners, like when you go there, like if you go to do a proposal at an EV owner's house, like you know, regardless of who they buy solar off, they're buying solar. There's no stuffing around there, right? Like they're going to buy solar. If they have a Tesla car, they're going to buy a Tesla battery. It's an absolute no-brainer. I think like EV adoption is, I don't know the actual stats on it, but I mean, I go to the gym every day. I know it might not look like it, but I've been working hard, right?
He's like, I go there. I'm going to move the weights at some point, but I get my coffee.
I got a mate there. I made a new friend there. His name's Tom, right? And he's a farrier, which means he shoes horses. And this guy is like as rough around the edges as possible. I rock up in my Tesla Model S. He's like, dude, what the hell? Take me for a drive. I take him for a drive. The very next week, 7 days later, the guy rocks up in a Model 3 Performance. He's like, I had to do it. You know what I mean? Like people are just buying EVs, and there's a lot of stock in Australia at the moment. The wait times aren't that long, so it's accelerating really fast.
Let me ask you about the battery. You brought it up that you have so many Enphase batteries, and over here, once again, we've talked to other installers in the United States, and it seems like the Enphase batteries, maybe the 5P is different. You tell me, but they didn't like all of the Enphase offerings for the batteries. They're actually saying EP Cube, or they're saying the EG4 batteries, if you've heard of those. They're just saying everything besides Enphase batteries. Can you tell us what's going on with Enphase, and is it being adopted too, also in Australia? Batteries.
Look, we had some really big pushback on the Enphase battery. If you want me to be really open and honest. Yes. So when I went to Germany, a lot of my time was sitting with the head guys at Enphase, the guys that actually developed this battery, Moran and Aaron, and we're quite listened to be honest, and we gave brutal feedback. Actually, before we went to Germany, they came to Australia, so we'd already done a beta test on this new battery. I put 4 of them on my parents' house, and we were doing a trial. And to be really honest, they had some work to do, particularly around the software. The battery wasn't behaving in a manner where I thought it was. And my benchmark is naturally Tesla. Like Tesla is the greatest battery on the market. It has been for 7 or 8 years, 6 years at least. And so I'm actively comparing.
What makes it so great?
Oh, it's everything. It's storage capacity, its looks, its feel, its reliability, its user experience. That Tesla app is second to none. It's just a very, very, very good, solid, well-supported product. So that's my benchmark, and if Enphase want to come out with a battery that's going to rival that, then it's got to be better, right? Or it's got to at least run side by side. So we gave them a lot of feedback, everything from the cover, the way that it clipped onto the battery. My feedback, and some people will hate this, but I'm an Apple guy. I love Apple. I love how it's all wrapped in. I'm all about user experience. I don't dislike Android, but I mean, some other phones out there are really clunky. I said to them, guys, you've gone and I wanted an Apple product and you've delivered me a Samsung. That was how I did. I'm like, it's clunky, cover comes off. I just don't like it, right? Like I like, that's what I like. Slick, nice finishes that just work. Now, don't show me your Samsungs because I don't want to see them. But so we gave them that feedback and they listened. They listened very, very intently. They broke all my changes down into short term, medium term, and long term. Obviously, the battery's already built. They can't just flip it on its head overnight. But I gave feedback as to the bracket. The bracket is only, I'm going to test my memory here. I'm going to say it's, what is it, 500 mil wide? I think it's 550 mil wide. Now, some houses in Australia, if it's a single story house, the studs are actually 600 mil wide. So from an installer point of view, if you're doing it on a gyprock wall, you can't get 2 studs. Now, it's only a 40, 50 kilo battery, whatever it is, but best instinct practice would always be to get 2 studs, right? So we gave them that feedback. Well, like this bracket, someone's just put a comment in there, try and sit on your new Apple 15 Max. I don't have one yet, but B Martin, if you can help me out, that would be good. So anyway, so we gave them all this feedback and they really, really listened. Now, the battery and how it functions is really, really good. And one of the best features that I love about the Enphase battery is its feature called Black Start, right? So if you've got IQ7s or IQ8s and Enphase battery and you pair them together, it essentially will work off grid, right? So if your grid goes out and you've got a multi-day blackout, and I'll use the example of Tesla Powerwall. This is one side of downside of a Powerwall is if say you got a 40-hour blackout, right, and you drain your batteries At any stage, they go down to 0. The solar cannot physically jumpstart the battery, and the battery cannot physically jumpstart the solar. So even if you've got backup, you're out, you're down and out, you're done. The greatest advantage of the Enphase battery is that this black start feature, even if you run it fully depleted overnight, in the morning, the battery will keep a tiny bit of energy to look for the micros, and the micros will actually form their own grid, and they will look for the battery. Once they see each other, they'll charge again, and you're back online. So we in Australia, like, it's not uncommon to have multi-day blackouts, particularly in the Blue Mountains. We have a lot of really bad fire seasons. I mean, you guys have it as well. I don't need to reach to you.
Wait, are you saying Tesla and SolarEdge and all these other, they don't do anything like this?
Tesla certainly doesn't. SolarEdge may, to be honest. I don't know. If you have a SolarEdge DC coupled battery with a SolarEdge RWS inverter with DC optimizers, it might. I don't know the answer to that, to be fair. Okay. But it was one really big advantage of Enphase battery over Powerwall. And that's what our product line is. The Enphase battery is also a very powerful battery. So you get 3.87 kilowatts worth of power per 5 kilowatt hour battery pack. So if you put 4 of them together, you've got, what do you have? 15 and a half odd
I thought the 5P battery had 7 up to a max of 7 kilowatts. Is that not right?
No, that's PV that you can attach to it. So it's got a PV attachment rate. I'm talking about power that you can give and take from the battery at any given time.
You're talking about like a surge, like it will fire
Correct.
up.
Yeah. Well, just think about it like, how much energy can I pull from this thing and how much can I put in at any given time? That is that's power. So
do people have an issue real quick? Because I see these things, these installations of Enphase stacked up against the side of the wall, and it takes up like the whole wall to get like 4 of these batteries, as opposed to like an EP cube, which is built up. Does anyone care about that? They're your clients, the people you talk to?
Yeah, it was one of my big pushbacks was the thing is not, with the advantage of Enphase batteries, you can put them on top of each other, whereas Powerwall, you probably wouldn't do that because of the weight. And you can go out widthways. It only needs 150 mil between each battery. But yeah, it is. You're 100% right. It takes up 1.6 times the physical space of a Powerwall 2 on the wall. Right. So for the same amount of kilowatt hours of storage, it's 1.6 times. Now, the advantage of the Enphase battery and where size isn't really being that much of a downside is most people are kind of only needing around that 10 kilowatt hours of storage. Powerwall is 13 and a half usable. So sometimes people don't actually quite need that. In fact, they might need 7 or 8. So we do 2 Enphase batteries. But you're right, space is a downside. It does take up more space. And the reason it takes up more space is because of its battery chemistry, right? The lithium iron phosphate, I think it is now, which is a safer chemistry. It's less risk of fire. It degrades better as well. And the result of that is that we see Enphase now with a 15-year warranty versus Tesla and most other batteries on the market at 10. So
those lithium iron phosphate for the Enphase, is it lithium ion?
It's iron.
Right? Lithium ion is
they're changing that too. They're changing that as well.
I'm sure they'll switch to the LFP.
Yeah.
And also you get more charging cycles, where like you could charge those batteries to 100 and you don't get any degradation.
So correct. I did want to jump back. So obviously you do all Enphase, but what is happening with like these other installers that do SolarEdge, at least in Australia that you know of? Are they? Is it so? Some people are telling us that look, that SolarEdge is obviously going to take over because DC coupling to batteries is better. It's more efficient.
Yep.
And then the other side is obviously saying, listen, what are you talking about? We use all AC in our houses, which is for Enphase, so that's the better system. Can you give us what is happening with this sort of fight? Who is actually winning this war?
In Australia right now, Enphase is definitely winning, and it's because of people like us driving it. But SolarEdge does have a little bit of traction at the moment, and the reason, yes, a DC coupled battery is seen to be a more efficient battery. It has some advantages where you can oversize solar as well. But in my opinion, it does have a lot of disadvantages. And you've got to remember, I'm coming from an installer point of view. My background isn't sales or marketing or anything like that. I've had to learn how to do that. I'm an installer. I'm a licensed electrician. And I installed a lot of SolarEdge inverters. And our failure rate was so high that it's just, I would never, ever do it again. I would not put myself through that. I don't think I'd survive it, to be honest. However, I do have a very good relationship with a gentleman named Brent, and Brent Herbert. He's the New South Wales sales manager for SolarEdge. He's SolarEdge's biggest advocate in Australia by far. And I speak to him. I spoke to him on the phone last week, and we like to I like to just sort of see where they're at. So, and part of that is me understanding what SolarEdge is doing as well, because it's important for me to know that. Now, their failure points, which we spoke about last time, were like hardware errors, and technically what they were capacitor failures is what they put most of them down to. So what SolarEdge is saying now is that they're using, what's the word for it? Automotive grade capacitors is what they're using. So they're using capacitors that would be built to, withstand rough roads and things like that in cars. Now, they're saying that they've really ironed out their failure rate, and I hope that they have. It's important that they have. But yeah, in Australia, I mean, I would say it's probably 60-40 to Enphase, but that's only off how I feel. I don't know that for a fact. Like all the quotes that we come up against, people selling Enphase, and a lot of Enphase.
So two questions for you. Number one is how are you guys doing penetrating on the commercial side? And on the commercial side, who's winning that? Is it still the same sort of 60-40 split, or is Enphase actually making some penetration on the commercial side?
No. SolarEdge would be winning commercial for sure.
Why is that? Like, why is that? That's the same thing. It's the same thing in the US. What is the thing? What is the reason why residential customers
cheaper?
It's the Envoy. It's cheaper. It's definitely cheaper. I do know of an installer though who has just fully moved away from SolarEdge. He did 3 meg, and I'm not like necessarily mates with this guy, but I know his story. He did 3 meg worth of solar, only 10 Ks away from our factory. He did the whole thing in SolarEdge, and I just remember looking at it going, oh, that's got to be a headache. Anyway, so after that job, he moved from SolarEdge to SunGrow. So he's now just doing straight up SunGrow, and SunGrow would be cheaper again. They make a really solid 110 kilowatt inverter. So yeah, like Enphase it is cheaper to do SolarEdge for sure, but their big limitation is the Envoy. The Envoy can only handle up to about 400 micros. When you have sites with multiple Envoys, the problem that you run into commercially is export limiting the site, right? You can't just if the site's completely shut down and the solar's pumping 100%, let's say it's a Sunday and no one's at work, you can't just send all that energy to the grid. You've got to control that energy and be able to ramp it up and down. So we have just one, or we're in the closing stages of a 230 kilowatt Enphase system. Someone in Australia has already done a 200 kilowatt plus Enphase system, but I think once you get up past that 300, we do need a new Envoy, and Enphase are working on a new master Envoy, which apparently will talk to our normal Envoy S's and tell them what to do. So there's like going to be a master on site, and then it's I don't know. Envoys out of control. So
I'm glad you brought this up, actually, because this is the first time I've heard that there's an actual a technological limitation with the hardware. So you can have as many micros as you want. The problem is the Envoy needs to be able to support those micros. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. The problem is communication. So the micros must communicate with the Envoy, and the Envoy must be able to clearly communicate with them. So, it's like, although they say the Envoy can handle 400 micros, it may not actually be best practice, right? Like you got to design it site by site. With SolarEdge or these other DC string systems, it's like your panels are in strings of 20. They're sent down. There's lots of DC cables coming down, and then you have like an inverter room. So with Enphase, you'll have to break it up a little bit more than that, because voltage rise on AC cables is a challenge, right? Because we got to remember we're running AC cables to the roof, not DC cables. So there are unique situations where it will work. Now, with that being said, though, in Australia, a 100 kilowatt system is a very, very commonly sized system. In fact, right now, we've got 5 of them on the run. So we got 5 sold that are being installed before Christmas, and Enphase is obviously being used on every single one of them. And there's no design problem at all. It's just once you get north of that 100 kilowatt mark and you really need to control your export limiting as best as you can, that you'll run into problems, design problems. So yeah, we're hoping it's fixed soon, but for now, I mean, it's not really our market either. Like if we wouldn't do 3 meg right now, we're not that company. We're a great.
Do those systems have batteries?
Yep. So 2 out of the 5 that we've currently got on the run, actually, sorry, 3 out of the 5 have Tesla Powerwalls attached to them. Now, to be fair, it's only 3. It's only to soak up a little bit of excess energy and to supply the factory overnight with what it uses. They're all daytime businesses. So yeah, one of them we did quote up 30 Powerwalls. We thought that would be pretty neat because it would take them basically off grid, but they didn't get the okay for that, so they're going to start at 3.
So in terms of just for the commercial part, I still like that question. Is Enphase taking the small commercial and residential? Basically, that's where they're going to stick to, because it doesn't make sense from what you're saying, besides the technological part, to even get to the large commercial, because it gets more expensive, I would assume, because it's cheaper to have just an inverter and do a string inverter as opposed to having microinverters under everything. Is this accurate or no?
It's accurate. I mean, and you got to think as well, the big push points as to why I love Enphase so much are potentially less important on a factory unit. Like safety is still important on a factory unit, but no one lives there. You know what I mean? So for me, like, that's our big driver, like safety. We do Enphase because it's the safest system in the world. There's no ifs or buts about it. For a factory unit, though, most of the DC cable actually doesn't even enter the factory unit. There'll be tray on the outside of the building. It'll come down the outside. Now, I'm not saying a fire in that situation would be good, but it would be less, it'd probably have less impact than if it was someone's house. Even since we spoke last, one of our staff here, his auntie built a new home, and new homes come with solar. They come with really cheap solar. And it was a DC system, and it caught on fire, and it burnt quite a large portion of this brand new home. So the installers have ripped that off, and we're doing Enphase now. Like, that woman will never buy anything other than Enphase the rest of her life.
Well, yeah. Why do you need the whole house to burn down to do that?
No,
to save on your electric bill.
Really not.
I want to go back to the price for a second. So what is the price difference now that a year and a half has passed between an Enphase system and a SolarEdge system? What is the actual cost for a regular house that has an 11 kilowatt, which you've been talking about? What is the difference here? Yeah.
Look, I think you'll still see SolarEdge at around the $1 per watt. Their battery.
What at Enphase again? Remind me. What was
$1.30? $1.30. Yeah. So
30% higher.
About 30%.
Yep. But it may, like, that's cheap Enphase. Cheap. We're cheap Enphase too, by the way. But that's cheap SolarEdge. That window might be from $1 to, like, it could be $1.30 as well. It's hard to say. And I must admit, I'm probably less in touch with it than when we spoke last. I haven't really been focusing on that. What SolarEdge is worth at all. But they've got, their battery talks to their SolarEdge inverter now, and they've done a lot of work on their communications as well. So they're saying it all ties in. Like, it's a really nice little ecosystem that they've got. But what you're not seeing is, in Australia particularly, is big installers that have been around a long time. If it was so good, why don't more of them sell it? If it was so cheap and they could win more work, why don't more of them sell it?
They don't want to support it, right?
There are no top 10 retailers in Australia selling it.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's my follow-up question. Would you agree with the statement that the installer network is a moat for Enphase? And if you agree with that statement, what would another company, what would SolarEdge, or what would a company, if someone asked me to ask you about Tigo Energy or SunPower, like, what would one of those companies, those manufacturers, have to do to get you to start allocating a certain percentage of your installs to those companies and potentially switch away from Enphase? What would they have to incentivize you, or how would they have to incentivize you to have you use their products?
It's a good question.
But she saved 15%, they said.
The
she
burnt
saved
down
some
house.
money.
Yeah. It's a really, really good question. Look, there wouldn't be much that would get me away from Enphase right now. And I've seen the fruit. It'd be very, very hard to turn away, but I didn't always see the fruit. There was someone that had to bring me the fruit to start with. Yes, I was an installer, but my Enphase rep is possibly the sharpest person in solar in Australia. His name's Christian Samways. He's a gun. He made it very easy for me to see the benefits of Enphase. And then once we worked it out ourselves, I often talk about doing Enphase only as having the cheat code to solar, right? Like, you ever play PlayStation back in the day, Crash Bandicoot? Remember the cheat code that would get you up a few levels?
Yeah.
Like, doing Enphase only for me is like having the cheat code to solar. That's exactly what it is. Now, I don't mind if installers want to do Solar Edge, and it may be, man, honestly, it may be a great product now. Like, it's hard for me to say, but I will never ever again do 50% of one and 50% of another. That's not possible. You know, that would never be a scenario for us, because not only like product efficiencies are really important, but our internal efficiencies are very, very important, probably more important. You know, like, we are like the McDonald's of solar power. We do the same thing over and over again, and that's how we've been able to generate such great efficiencies at Penrith Solar and be able to deliver, you know, 10 moving to 12 installs a day. Like, let's be clear, no one else in Australia has actually been able to do that whilst keeping an in-house model and keeping their quality as high as possible.
Where are these leads coming from? Are you guys going out and doing outreach or doing advertisements, or is it word of mouth, or do you have a referral program? How are you getting so many? And then the follow-up question is, how many bids do you put out, and what's your closing rate?
Yeah, good question. So all our leads are inbound. We do no outbound stuff. All our leads are actually inbound. We don't door knock.
Inbound meaning that they're all contacting.
They've come to us and said, "Hey, Jake, we want solar." Or, "Hey, Penrith Solar, we want solar," right?
You have no external advertising?
Yeah, we advertise, right?
Okay, and they come to you. Okay.
They come to us, that's right. So we do a lot, obviously, in the Google AdWords space. Bassi, you were just speaking to before, he's our marketing manager, so he probably answer that better than me. But we do like buses. We still have some buses getting around. We do a lot of Google AdWords, a lot of social media marketing as well. And ultimately, once we get these people into PSC, they fall into a funnel. So we want to email them. We want to educate them as we go. We have this really unique marketing strategy, which is actually based from a guy in the US, from River Pools and Spas. Actually, it's called They Ask You Answer, and that's like our marketing strategy. And what we do is we do really, really good blogs. Now, to be clear, this is only new for us. We've danced with the devil with marketing companies in the past, and we've worked out that you've got to take it in house, and you just got to do it as best as you can. So here's an article. You know, if you go on our website, Penrith Solar,
I saw that article. I was reading it.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really, really in depth. This is not just like a little tiny article he did.
No. And that's what we're doing now. That's our minimum standard of what we do at Penrith Solar. So we're currently doing 3 a week with the ambition to ramp up to 5 a week. And all we're doing is answering people's questions. Now, that's driving SEO, which is obviously the greatest form of leads, right? Because it's cheap. It's cheap. It's for free. Like, you've done the work. It's not for free, but it almost is, right? You're searching, coming up organically, and you're delivering content to people. And then they're making a decision. They're coming to us and they're saying, "Hey, you know what? We actually really trust you, and we're going to go with whatever you say here." So that's what we're experiencing.
What's the conversion rate? What was the conversion rate?
What's the closing rate?
30% at the moment. Yeah,
25.
25 to 30. Yeah. It depends. Right now, honestly, it'd be like 45, but this is a really unique time. It's not historically 45.
Unique time. It's like the apocalypse here, and it's a unique time over there.
So the ones that don't close, what is the reason that they give you? Did they go with somebody else, or are they saying they're waiting for more favorable, say, financing, or sometimes in the summer?
My feel is they do buy solar. A lot of the time, most of the time, I would say they'd buy it from someone else if they didn't buy it off us. You got to remember too, guys, like whilst, yes, we are the poster boy for ENPH, and I will back Penrith Solar till the day I die. Like, we work very, very hard and we do the best service. But what that's done for the solar industry in Australia is everyone around us must lift to our level, right? If they want to compete with us and be in the same league as us and sell ENPH with us, they must lift and do what we do, right? So a guy that, I've met a few times, his name's Nick. He has a company called Clear Cut Solar. He sent me a message the other day. He's like, "Hey, Jake, I just want to let you know, man, that you've inspired me to build my own training facility." So this guy's gone and built his own training facility, the same as what we did. He's not one of our competitors, but I can tell you right now, he's doing solar probably better than most people in his area. So to answer that question, like, other people have to do well too. So just because people don't buy off us, it doesn't mean they're going to get total trash. And like I said, most people around us now have to quote ENPH, right? That's a given. Like, it's like we educate the people. If they want to buy it off their nephew who does solar, they're asking for ENPH. I'll tell you that right now.
So let me ask you about competitors besides Solar Edge, because we talk on our Discord a lot, and people want to know, Have you heard of Tigo at all? Have you heard of Hoy Miles at all? Can you discuss these a little bit, and if you're using any of it, or people are using it?
Yep. So Tigo, a good friend of mine, Mark Kavanagh, he owns MC Electrical. He's a great dude. I
watch your podcast. I love those podcasts.
Yeah.
They're really good.
Yeah. So Mark did some testing on Tigo, and he reckons it's like I'll be careful what I say here. He said he wouldn't install it again, right? So we don't do it. Like, well, the reason that he says that is because string inverters have now gotten smarter, right? Fronius and SMA in particular, they have a maximum global power point tracker, which means they're like shade doesn't affect them in the way that it used to. Now, the primary purpose of Tigo in Australia, of course, was to alleviate shade issues. But man, if you've got a string inverter in Tigo, like we will be cheaper with Enphase. You know what I mean? Like we actually will probably be cheaper or the same price with Enphase.
Well, why is that? I looked it up. The Tigo inverters are like $30, and Enphase IQ8 is retail $200.
$125, some of them.
Yeah. Well, retail $200, maybe $100 for you, right?
It's all got to do with efficiencies, man. Like we just ordered micros for 2024, and we ordered 75,000. Like our orders are already in for 2024 quarterly. We take them quarterly.
So you have a great deal. You're price competitive with the micros to Tigos. Is this what you're saying?
Yes.
So you're not buying. Wait, so you're not buying them from a distributor. You're getting them directly from Enphase. You're acting as your own distributor because that's unique.
No.
You're still getting them through a distributor.
Yep. I'm going to say they come through a distributor, but they're a great back-end rebates, if you will, right? So in Australia, the Enphase channel, it's a distributor channel. Like there are no one really, unless they have a global partnership that buys direct. So yeah, you buy through wholesaler, and they have what they call SPA pricing, which would be like an upfront discount. And then some installers, like the higher the volume, they have a VIR, which is a volume incentive rebate. And that's rewarding volume only, right? So that rebate historically capped out at like 5,000 micros per quarter. We pushed it all the way out to 12,000. And every time we were like rewriting this rebate, they're like, really? Like, you want that? I'm like, give it to me. Let's go. So obviously you don't hit it, you don't get it. So it's like one of those things, you have to do the numbers to get that sort of a rebate.
What is the average size wattage of the average solar panel that you're installing now?
So right now we're doing 430s and 450s.
Okay, so here's my question. When I got solar in 2019, the average size of a solar panel was 325 watts, and the best ones at the time were 375s. What are you saying? You're doing 420s? Okay, so my question is, as the solar panels become more efficient and the wattage gets higher, right? Theoretically, you would need less solar panels for the same equivalent kilowatt system. Are you seeing that eating into your profits? Because that's, say, one less microinverter that you're installing over 100 systems, because the panels are actually generating more power. And the Enphase microinverter can handle 600 watts, 650 watts, right? So do you see that happening? That you're installing less microinverters for the same size kilowatt hour system or kilowatt system?
In Australia, our micros can't handle 650. Our micros, like the IQ8 AC, is a 360 watt micro. The biggest panel you can put on that is a 465. We have a 33% oversizing rule in Australia. So no, we're not seeing it eat into profits necessarily or eating into our volume. What we're actually seeing is people putting more solar on their roof. That's got to be the reason why our average size has gone from 6 in 2017 to now 11.8 in 2023, right? So our average number of panels is between 24 to 26 panels, call it 25, right?
So you're putting the same number of panels. That's what you're putting, the same number of panels, but they're getting more wattage out of it.
Correct.
More panels,
you're not like, because out here in LA, there's like a rule where you can only have it. You can have a system that's 107% of your usage. So really? For here, because they don't want you sending too much power back to the grid, right? So they say they take the average of your 3 months and they say that's what your average is, and then you can install a. So you're legally allowed to install a system.
Is that right?
Right. So they have limits. Otherwise, dude, I have so much space.
So you don't have the same limits in Australia?
We have something that is like, because overloading the grid is a real problem, right? And only
That's what they
batteries are
say,
going to
yeah.
fix it. But what we do have export limiting. So South Australia has just rolled out dynamic export limiting. So the grid can tell you at any time what you're allowed to put into the grid, right? So only smart systems will keep up with that change, right?
So
So
where does that extra power go? Just turns to heat?
No, it gets turned off. It quite literally just gets almost burnt, right?
Disconnected, right?
Disconnected, yeah. So right now, though, we don't in New South Wales, we don't have dynamic yet. I'm sure we will one day. We do have hard export limits, though. So for a single phase system, you can only export limit 5 kilowatts back into grid at any time. So if we do an 11 kilowatt system on a single phase, there will be times where that 11 kilowatt system can't do 11 kilowatts. If the home's only using 1 kilowatt, theoretically the system can only produce 6. But this is why battery storage makes so much sense,
Right.
because instead of turning that system off or down, you put it into a battery, save it for later, and people need it, man, with EVs and whatnot. Like EVs, as much as like I love them, they're going to present a good challenge, because they use a hell of a lot of energy, my EV has a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, and I got to charge that thing probably like it'd use 100 kilowatt hours like for 500 Ks worth of driving, which for me is like probably 5 days worth of driving. So, there's big demand coming, and I don't think people
you have a Plaid?
realize it. Say it again.
Yeah, you have a Plaid?
He has 3 Plaids, buddy.
No. I actually have a Model S Performance, but we got Plaids cancelled on us in Australia. So I had a Plaid on order for like 2 years nearly. And then, maybe 6 months ago, they sent an email saying they're not coming to Australia anymore. Sorry. But I've got a Cybertruck on order.
I see the same thing. I mean, I have the X Plaid, and I see, and I can compare it to the Y long range. Big difference. And that 100 kilowatt hour battery is definitely, it's a lot of power.
I did want to finish the Hoy Miles discussion because, people bring up these third party that are going to come and destroy Enphase. So, I mean, just want to hear your opinion. Why aren't you testing this cheaper, better inverter?
Well,
that's a loaded question, of course, but why? Explain.
The simple answer is we really just don't have them in Australia. Like I couldn't even tell you one person that sells them in Australia. Now we get people like Holy Miles Direct will reach out to us and ask us if we're interested in the discussion, like all the time. But the email, like I'm a really big fan of how you do one thing is how you do everything. And sometimes these emails will come through and they're barely even like written in a way that I can read it. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you really want me to buy this shit off you? Like, I'm buying 75,000 units a year. Like, this isn't going to work if this is your opening email. I would invite if any manufacturer wants to sell to Penrith Solar, and man, I'm always going to take everything on board. Like, I'm a learner. That's what I do. Like, book an appointment and come into Penrith Solar, have a tour, and then we'll talk about what your product does for us. A cold email is never going to sell me a product. Now, with that being said, they are in Australia, but I don't know anyone personally that sells them. Again, my mate Mark Kavanagh, I think he tested them. We've seen it in Germany. We went to their stand in Germany. And man, like one thing that stood out to me was they had like 8 different models. They had 1-to-1, they had 2-to-1, they had 4-to-1, and they had bigger wattages and stuff. Like, I still just love the simplicity of Enphase's product line.
But hold on. The benefits of that, I mean, people talk to us, the 4-to-1, the 2-to-1. The benefit is that, hey, I get half the microinverters. Maybe it's not as decentralized, but I save half the cost of these things. Is that not a benefit that you consider worthy of thinking about?
Not at this current point in time, no. I mean, I don't even know what they cost, to be honest. But they're like, if I don't
assume they're cheaper, let's just assume that.
Yeah, well, so is GrowWatt and Goodwe. Like
you get into that, but you get into that. As you go down that cost, you're also increasing that single point of failure. So if one micro goes down, you're going to lose 4 panels. You're not going to lose everything like you would on a solar edge, but you're going to lose 4 panels. And then you might have the risk where, let's say you have an odd number of panels, you might have basically an unused channel on one of the inverters, or you need to get like a 2 or 3. That was my issue with it. One inverter per panel is the easiest way to do it.
Warehousing, like there are just problems with it. And guys, like at scale, right? Like doing what we do, 75,000 micros a year. Let me be really, really clear. If I jump all in on a product that I don't even know where its head office is in Australia and I'm not supported, that is enough to send us broke in about 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Like there is no hope in hell that I'm going to take a risk like that. There is no way whatsoever that I'm ever even going to entertain it. I'll let other people be the guinea pigs first. I will never ever be first in on something like that I barely even know about. It's not worth it. It's not worth the risk, and it's not worth putting my clients in a position where they've just paid for something that I'm personally don't even know if like what the support's like, like you just got to remember grassroots. I put this Enphase on my parents' house in 2018 when I had access to anything in the world, right? Like there's got to be something to be said about that. And again, these opinions of mine, they come from being an electrician. Like there might be great sales advantages to Holy Miles. And, what is a really big advantage for me with Holy Miles is that I hope they do enter the Australian market. I hope they're bullish, because guess what that does to Enphase? It keeps them sharp, right? Like it keeps everyone sharp. The Enphase battery, by the way, is the greatest thing that ever happened to the Australian solar market in the battery sector, because guess what Tesla did overnight? They dropped their price by $3,500, and then on top of that, put a $750 battery rebate on top of it, man. Like, come on, did costs really go down that much overnight?
So this transitions to like, I guess my last question. So we have about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. To me, Tesla is a sleeping giant when it comes to solar. Like right now, it's obvious that they are not prioritizing solar. They're prioritizing batteries. They're prioritizing power walls, but they're not really taking the solar home, residential, or even commercial installations seriously. Yeah. Do you think that poses a real potential threat? Whereas Tesla, since it's not their primary business and it's not the primary revenue generator, that they can create incentives, whether it's packaging. Say you buy a Tesla, we'll give you a Powerwall and a solar system for one price, 84-month lease, whatever it is. Like, is it possible for Tesla to, if and when they take it really seriously, could they pose a serious threat to Enphase?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like Tesla right now, I don't know if Tesla are an energy retailer in the US, but Tesla are now an energy retailer in Australia, right? Now, Powerwall 3 has been announced. I seen it in the flesh the other day. You guys are going to get it before us. Yeah, of course.
They're not as nice as the 2s.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It looked that LED light on the front, I thought looked a little cheap, but it's a new product. It's got to be good. It's got an inbuilt inverter as well. And by the way, that won't work that well with Enphase. That DC coupled sort of solution. They just want you to wire panel straight into that bad boy. So
it's also for the DC charging. They want to, because you want to limit the DC to AC, back to AC to DC to go back into the thing. So that's my question. Like, is Enphase just running away with it now because Tesla hasn't turned it on? And if and when Tesla turns it on, are we really going to start to see a hit in the number of Enphase installations? Or would a company like you consider installing Tesla systems because of that? Because they're just a massive company that would be able to support you.
Yeah, they would be able to support us, and their tech support right now is very, very good. Tesla support is very, very good.
We've heard the opposite in the States.
But it still comes down to that debate of DC versus AC. Like what I believe in as an electrician, like I believe in AC technology. I believe in it's safer, it's smarter, it's more reliable. So like the new Tesla sort of suite, unless they come up with a microinverter, it would be very, very hard for me to want to transition. Like it just comes back to that safety point of view. They just don't do what Enphase does. So but the bigger threat is not will it take over Enphase's volume, because Enphase is really unique, is like it's got SunGrow to keep up with. SunGrow, like let's not forget how much capacity you guys would have SunGrow in the US, surely.
We've heard of it, and also Fronius too.
Yeah. Oh, I went to the SunGrow factory the other day in China, and let me tell you, if I was going to go back to a string inverter, I would have to think very seriously about adopting SunGrow. It is a Chinese giant, and I'm telling you now, they are doing stupid amounts of work. Like I must have seen 500 people in their R&D department blowing inverters up for fun the other day. Like they would literally just like see when it would pop, and I was like, "What are you guys doing here?" They're like, "Yeah, this is where we just blow shit up."
Stress test.
Like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, they're having fun, and their volume.
Why were you at that factory, sir?
I got taken to the US by.
I got kidnapped. He said, "I got kidnapped."
Yeah, I don't know. No, I got taken. I actually went to the Tesla factory, the SunGrow factory. We went to Schletter, which is our racking manufacturer. Where else did we go? We went to one more. I shouldn't forget this. SunGrow. Come on, Bass, help me here. Sungrow, Tesla, Schletter. Oh, I'm gonna get shot for forgetting that. And I went to all these factories, and it was like they were really, really impressive. Really. Oh,
so basically, look, in my opinion, there's room for both. So at the end of the day, you're saying, the string inverter is not going anywhere. The microinverter is not going to go anywhere. It's basically whatever your needs are.
Yeah, that I would say that's a pretty accurate statement.
But the thing is, something you said earlier. You said everyone that gets a Tesla almost always goes with that wall connector, and they always go with a Powerwall. They're not installing the Enphase IQ battery. So my concern is, as Tesla continues to ramp up their deliveries, they're going to do 1.8 million vehicles this year. They just crossed 5 million vehicles, and the amount of time it's taken them to get the subsequent million is shrinking. Right. So it's like 3 years to make one, and then 6 months and 4 months. Now basically every quarter they'll start to pump out 1 million vehicles. The conversion rate on that for Tesla will be huge if they start to really.
That Chinese factory produces a Model Y every 40 seconds. They fully build a Model Y in 4 hours, including paint.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. And so at some point, when there's 10 million Teslas on the road, and then they turn on an incentive, because this is partially what people are arguing, that the Tesla's not making enough gross margins on the vehicle. And everyone's saying that they're going to future monetize these customers with FSD, but they're forgetting solar. They're forgetting that you can upsell these customers. You say, hey, are you enjoying your new Tesla and your wall connector? How about we pair you with a solar system and a Powerwall and make all of your energy and the energy for your Tesla free? And they know what vehicles you have, so they can spec it out and say, you have a Model S, you have a Model Y, here's what you need. Turnkey. The people that I know, because I've never been able to sell an Enphase system. And everyone that I've talked to about Enphase has ended up getting a Tesla system. And I asked them why. And they go, it's just easier. I have a Tesla. I went on the app. And then it's one app for the Tesla charging and my house, and I can see.
Let him answer. Is that an issue that comes up for you?
Yeah. No, look, it probably will be, to be honest, especially when you paint it like that. Tesla already reach out to clients and say, hey, you enjoying that car? How would you like a Powerwall? You know,
I get those emails.
Yeah, they do that. Absolutely. So look, I don't know if they'll ever, like right now. So, and I know we've got a minute to go. Tesla Installer Summit the other day, and their biggest thing right now is they don't have enough installers. So they're rapidly trying to bring people on to install their products. So I think that's the challenge that lies ahead. Before will Enphase or Tesla overtake each other? We don't have enough humans and resources to do what we need done, you know? So yeah, will they overtake them? I mean, maybe. Like, I don't know. It wouldn't be my biggest threat on the front of my thoughts every day, though. That's for sure. Because at the end of the day, Tesla do make good products.
Let me ask you about the batteries again, because that's important. The Enphase batteries are just strictly more expensive than other competitors' batteries, even if it's DC or AC coupled, right?
Yeah. So they are.
So is that hard to convince people? Hey, it's better for you to go with the Enphase system, and they're asking, no, let me go with something else.
Well, similar to what we just spoke about, by having an Enphase system and Enphase batteries, you've got it all on one app, right? So it's all on one app. The Black Start's a great feature, and the 15-year warranty is one of the biggest features of all time, because no other battery has that level of warranty. So yes, it's hard. Yes, it's expensive. There are some big limits as to, like with Enphase systems at the moment, you can only do an Enphase battery when you have Enphase microinverters. Like, that's wild to me. Like, and they're working on that. But a Tesla, I can put it on any system I want in the world. I can even put it on a house with no solar and let it trade energy. You know, Enphase need to get their battery to that level.
So it's not this current generation of 5P. You're assuming it's the next generation that's coming out, the 4th generation.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say it'd be the next one that would probably be perfectly polished. This one's very, very good, to be clear. And would I put it on my own house? Yeah, of course I would, you know. But it can be better. But to be clear, there are features that are better than the Powerwall as well. And these two batteries are in a league of their own. Nothing else touches them. There's no SunGrow battery, there's no Solar Edge battery, in my opinion, that comes remotely close.
Have you heard of Solar?
No, I haven't. No, we don't think we have that in Australia.
How much more expensive are we talking about here for an Enphase battery over a Powerwall for the same kilowatt hour?
At our scale, honestly, we've got them to about the same price. But if you were to buy it retail, you can buy a Powerwall fully installed right now in Australia for like $1 to $1.10 per watt. The Enphase batteries would be $1.10 to $1.25 per watt.
So it's about the same as it's about the same as the cost of the microinverters versus a single inverter. So it's still about a 20 to 30% markup.
Yeah.
At least one of my last questions. I could talk to you way longer, but in terms of like the string inverters, okay. So I've learned a lot actually from your friend, the electrician. I forgot what his name was.
Yeah, Mark Kavanagh.
Yeah, he's great at explaining and giving the sort of the bull case for string inverters, because now panels, like you said, I don't know if people heard this clearly, but panels are smart enough to, if there's any blockage, they actually bypass the panel or can bypass parts of the panel. So
Yes.
my question to you, is there actually any reason to even put microinverters anymore if the panels themselves are cheaply handling bypassing them, so shade does not matter as much? So what is the benefit here from even going to Enphase if we can get a cheaper system just going with a string inverter? And forget about even Solar Edge, because they would lose out at the same time.
Totally. Yeah, of course. Look, from our point of view, safety is the biggest feature, right? Enphase is the only system in the world where when you turn it off at the breaker, you truly get 0 volts coming from everything down to the ground, right? So safety, there's no fire risk. Panel level monitoring, you can see every panel's performance individually. So if you ever have to go back on a warranty claim in the future and say, hey, Trina, or hey, SunPower, this panel's not performing. If you've got a string inverter, good luck like working out how, when, what, where, who. Whereas with Enphase, you've got a lifetime of data. You can do a warranty claim like that. I think it's transparent solar. It's solar as transparent as it can possibly get. Now, we also with Enphase, we have consumption monitoring on every single site that we have. So not only can you see what your system's producing, but you can see what you're using in the home, which is a feature that can come on string inverters, but most installers don't actually do it. And
I don't have that. I don't have that. Is that on the app?
No. I remember talking about it last time.
Yeah,
consumption. You got to pay Enphase for that consumption monitoring.
Right? Get a
No. It's free now. It's free. You don't pay them at all. It's free. It's 100% free.
But what do you mean? What do you mean when they install a new system?
Consumption monitoring used to be a thing. There was a premium version of Enphase where you had to pay them to see panel level monitoring. And consumption monitoring, I think, was still included. But now in Australia, for sure, and I reckon it's the rest of the world, you get the whole Enphase ensemble for free, right? You can see panel level, consumption monitoring, everything. If you
It's the new Envoy. Is that the new Envoy? That's what you're talking about?
Yes, which is still like 5 or 6 years old, even 7. Okay. Yeah. So
is that a different app? Is that a different app than what is it called? Enphase.
Enphase Enlighten.
So just to make this clear, the string inverter, basically, even if it is cheaper, the problem really comes down to that if something happens with any of the panels, any of the strings, you have no idea what happened. That's really the problem here.
It's your downtime, right? I've got an equation too, guys, and it's not off topic, right? My equation is your installer is the first choice, your type of inverter is the second choice, and your panel is the third choice. People get obsessed over what panel they're going to buy or what inverter. Now, Carlos, you're sitting here with what, Enphase on your roof? Mm-hmm. You don't have consumption monitoring. You chose a shit installer. I'm sorry, dude, but every single site should have consumption monitoring. Choose a good installer.
I installed it in 2019, so it was.
Yeah,
it was going a few years back.
Every one of ours.
2018. I don't know if I have that too, by the way.
You should, dude. You should. If you don't,
back then, it was a separate box that you had to install in the panel. It was like a box that you had that would. Kind of like a voltmeter that you
I have an app with per panel monitoring, but that's not consumption monitoring, right? That's something different.
Consumption monitoring is showing you what your house uses at any point in time.
What I can see right now. I can see how much my system's producing right now, but I can't see the consumption.
What about status? Go to status. What's that left one?
Yeah, I think our installers cheated us.
I don't know, man. In Australia, it would be totally unacceptable for that to happen. Like every Enphase site gets consumption monitoring, So we're huge on that. And that needs to happen because, dude, if you don't have consumption monitoring, how the hell are you supposed to know what size battery you're going to put on your house? You've got to do it. That's why I'm big installer first. Micros second.
Well, I'm gonna call my guy after this one.
Ask the question.
I actually asked that too. I have to
get me a consumption.
At least one more question is about in terms of the energy going up in Australia itself. Is this something that happens every year or 2 or 3? So the Australians just intrinsically know our energy is going to get more expensive? Because in America, I fight everybody who keeps telling me that inflation is not getting the energy prices too high, that it's all reasonable and affordable. So the energy prices going up for a lot of people is not enough to go to solar. Is it the opposite in Australia where it is?
Yeah, of course. I mean, legally, the energy retailers are allowed to increase the price of energy on the 1st of July every year. And they do that, right? So I remember 2017 carrying on about a 21% price increase. Like the one we just had was 25%. Like you're talking back then, it was 18 cents a kilowatt hour. Now we're like, 38, 40 cents per kilowatt hour.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
2018? Wow.
2018, it was like 18 to 20. I remember like even being on 22 was unreasonable at the time. Anything in the 20s was no good. So now, I mean, you'd kill to be at that. But yeah, it's increasing every year, and it's an energy crisis. It also, what we're experiencing because of solar penetration is these dynamic exports. But your energy, in times where you want to sell it to the grid, there's already a surplus of solar, right? So that's why battery storage is becoming a real big topic, because that excess solar can also be dynamic as well, right? So if you sell it, sometimes it can be worth 10 cents, sometimes it can be worth a negative price. Like they want to charge you for excess solar going back into the grid. So that's what's driving this battery, revolution at the moment.
Okay.
Awesome.
I mean, I got some great info. We definitely have to revisit with you in another year and see how it happens. But the last thing we should say. So 2024 is it going to be better than 2023, or is it going to be worse?
Yeah, man. Like we've just ordered 75,000 micros. The volume is going through the roof. It's the perfect storm right now in Australia. My team are more connected than ever, because as you go through these different times and peaks and troughs, like it takes a toll on your workplace culture. We are firing on all cylinders right now. We're the strongest we've ever been. And to be honest, I think the Australian solar industry is feeling a very similar way. We're maturing is what we're doing. It's great to see other people do really well and, keep doing high quality solar installs. The government's played a bit of a part in that as well, of course, stricter inspections, particularly Melbourne is leading the way, or Victoria. They got compulsory inspections on every system before they're turned on. So that's really done great to increase the quality of solar. Our systems get inspected far less. We did a video the other day, actually, which I can send to you guys. We had a Solar Victoria auditor come to our factory for a tour. We let him rip apart one of our systems, then he rated it, which was obviously I wouldn't share it if I didn't think it was great. So it was really good. But yeah, man, like everyone's having a good time here. I think 2024 is going to be a massive year for batteries. It's going to be a massive year for solar as well. And we're excited. It's an ever-changing industry, though. We're seeing a lot of consolidation at the moment. Big German player, 1,5. Have you got them in the US at the moment? 1,5 yet?
I haven't heard of them, no.
Look them up, man. 1,5. They've just bought a couple of companies in Australia. It's not us, but they might have tried. They might not have. It's hard to say. But they've bought a few. They're coming over and saying that they can do this on a worldwide scale better than anyone else. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. Time will tell. So it's exciting. They're a huge partner of ENPH. They primarily do ENPH. They got a global agreement with ENPH. They do Tesla. They have a very similar product line to us. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what those guys do, if anything at all. And yeah, we're pumped for 2024. It's nice. Going to be a belter, considering we're already taking bookings for 2024. So we're off to a good start.
That's amazing. The last question, at least for me, is what about do you have any ENPH now in your portfolio, or are you still, because you didn't before?
I knew you were going to ask this, man. I've been working hard at trying to get truck 11 and 12 on the road. So I haven't even batted an eyelid. I'll be really honest with you.
It's a good time right now. I mean,
do you own Solar Edge? Are you lying to us? You have Solar Edge in the portfolio, though, right?
Dude, honestly, I'll be honest. I couldn't even tell you what it's worth today. Like, I just don't know. I don't follow it. Like, there will be a time where I do. And I know you guys are like shaking your head, like, come on, Jake, you're on a finance channel. I'm just so laser focused on what we're doing here at Penrith Solar.
I know you're growing your business.
That's what we're doing, man. And that's always going to be the best return for me. Head down, ass up. I'm a big fan of keeping the blinkers on and not getting sidetracked and distracted by all these other people and other things that you could do, whatever that might be. I am interested in energy trading, though. I am actually, that's caught my attention. And we're going to do a big battery system here at the office, and we're going to let it trade energy. It'll be pretty cool. So interested to see how that plays out.
We should definitely check in with you, maybe in 6 months, maybe not have it be a year.
Yeah.
and see where
Yeah.
we are like
Dude,
June, like when
we
it
can
becomes
do-
our summer.
We can do quarterly. We can do whatever you want. If you're
Do a
fans
quarterly call, right?
I'm fine with quarterly.
we'll do quarterly call. So as long as the guys like it, you know, this is what we're doing it for, right? We're doing it for your guys. We're doing it to educate the public, and I know you guys do a great job of that. So if they're all about it, I'm here. I'm ready to go.
Do you want to
really
pitch?
appreciate
Where can they obviously find you? Because some people I think are from Australia. I'm not sure if someone's listening here.
Yeah, of course. So you can find us on our website, which is www.penrithsolar.com.au. You can. Our showroom is in Penrith, which is in New South Wales. So if you're in New South Wales and you're traveling through Penrith, like feel free to stop in, have a coffee, charge your electric vehicle. Where you'll always have someone at the front counter with a smile waiting to greet you. And of course, worldwide, jump on our socials, man. We just got a TikTok account. I don't know what's going on, but I did a video the other day.
They got your Enphase dance videos.
Well, I'm going to give you a suggestion because I tweeted at you with this video multiple times. I never had a response from your Twitter account.
You got to get somebody on the Twitter.
Someone's got to be responding to those. We were discussing it.
You're right. We don't have. We might have bought.
No, you have a Twitter account.
Take the link to this video and take the link to this video. Put it out there. Your questions are being answered.
Do you guys do LinkedIn?
Yeah, I have LinkedIn.
Who else? Who's on LinkedIn?
I don't know. Well, in Australia, that's more dominant than
I think I added you on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I think I added you one of those times.
Very nice.
All right. Okay. So I'm committed. I got to be better at my socials. Got to be better at Twitter. And we'll be back.
Yeah, you're making too much money to care. Let's be honest.
Hey, we're having a lot of fun here, man. We're working hard. We're having fun, and we're focused on us. You know. So
well, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for taking the time
stress.
and educating. It was. I'm gonna have to watch this again because there was a ton of information here.
Yeah. Man, even when I watched our last one again, I learned so much more about me again. I was like, wow, that's cool. So, no, it was awesome. Hey, guys, I really appreciate you having me on. Thanks so much, Vitaly. Thanks, Carlos. And thanks to everyone who tuned in.
Bye.
Thank you.
We're just going to stop the stream.
All right,
you hit the